After a long and enjoyable journey, I reached Suibari. From Suibari, one can catch the jeep for Sijosa. At the entrance of Sijosa school, I was received by this chocolate albatross. Colors were so attractive that I kept on watching for a long time. This was just a start of second half. Sijosa was going to be the base camp for my second part of the journey. Peaceful surroundings of school campus and friendly behavior of school staff were encouraging factors for studies. The principal of the school, Sri Chandrasekhar Appa, provided me full support. Sijosa is an important location for visiting Pakke Tiger Reserve. Pakke River was just at the backside of the school, and the other side of the river was Tiger Reserve. This river must have been the lifeline of this region for ages, but the river that gives life sometimes claims it back, and it happened in July 2004. The river claimed its land back with lots of devastating effects of flood. It destroyed most of the roads and bridges. This was a major blow for the villagers and a setback for arrogance of so-called technology development. First day Rasam took me to Sukan Nala. This water stream in the dry bed was full of life. Elephant and Mithun are the two giant residents of this forest. Many of these butterflies kept a safe distance from me. I tried a lot to get closer, but this common maplet made my every effort fruitless. Nala was full of butterflies and leeches. I was well prepared with leech guard, but Rasam happened to be a major prey for leeches. Every day I carried packed lunch for both. It was really an eco-friendly lunch wrapped in leaves. For all those days, I enjoyed rice and only rice. After this nice and rice lunch break, we used to start our walk again. Through water streams, marshy parts, nala beds, and sometimes through thick undergrowth. On the way, my clothes would collect insects, leeches, sticky and thorny seeds. Short breaks taken in between helped me in shaving off the sticky seeds and leeches from my trouser. Rasam's dao was a good multi-purpose tool. Here, due to marshy land, the major threat is from cerebral malaria, which can be fatal. That day, most of the walk was through Sukan Nala. This common landscape sometimes included dry leaves, but this dry leaf seemed to be totally different. When I started going near it, it no longer remained a dry leaf. This leaf was live. It was orange oak leaf butterfly. Inner and outer sides of wings had contrast color schemes and purpose. Most of the predators would ignore such dry leaves. The diversity in this area was amazing. Most of the butterfly groups like browns, yellows, whites, blues, coppers were present. Skippers were also not behind. Fulvous pied flat made me run behind it for 15 minutes and just for one photograph. Finally, nature became generous and honored me with bronze medal. I just kept on watching through my lens. Fortunately, I could click once before it flew off. Nature was presenting a great magic show. 2 hours back, nature had fooled me with an orange oak leaf. This was another miracle, a walking grass stick. No less, no more. Only the presence of movement made the difference. I did not realize how this day passed. Now nature's palette had changed. Sun rays decorated the forest with red crown. Dusky diadems were engaged in choosing their perching locations. That day it was too late for return. But this setting sun transformed me into a statue. This was a typical time for hill mynas and hornbills to get back for perching. Having Rasam with me was really a great help. He was born and brought up in this land and knew a lot about elephants. He always carried his dao with him. Next day I went with DFO Mr. Tanatapi and Range Officer Mr. Islari in the core area of Karinala. No signs of tourism were seen. No roads were developed. But due to this less disturbance, this area was full of butterflies. This core zone was rich with large butterflies like birdwings, batwings, great mormons and many more. This was really a fruitful but tiring day. I was back to my school base before sunset. This accommodation was really healthy for meditation and study. It was so near to the forest that sometimes even wild elephants visit this area. Day's work was required to be documented in the evenings. While on the field, I kept on making rough notes with sketches and by the end of the day, completed identification and documentation. After 6 in the evening, power cut was a very common thing. Almost every evening I spent with students and staff of Vivekananda Kendra. Evening prayers and bhajans gave me a peace of mind. Within 2 days, most of the students had developed interest in butterflies. They kept on asking many questions and even shared their knowledge. Talking to kitchen staff while the food was being cooked provided a lot of information about local culture. Most of the times, the menu was rice and dal. Sometimes, for a change, it became dal rice or fried rice. But it was always tasty. On the last day, I could not get permission to enter the forest. I was disappointed. I had to restrict my trail along the Pakke river bank. This forest border was a disturbed patch. It contained a lot of marshy land, full of mosquitoes and other biting insects. Slow movements allowed me to go very near to the butterflies. I was just few inches away from this magpie crow. By now, most of these butterflies allowed me at closer distance. Now they were not frightened at all. By now, unknowingly I had entered their kingdom. It seemed that butterfly group called blues had the responsibility to welcome and look after the strangers and treat them like guests. Being from the blues, Flash Butterfly greeted me well with a gentle kiss. I had to pass through a strict security check. The Sirs Butterfly checked me thoroughly. The check was against banned items in this kingdom like lotions, perfumes, ointments, repellents and other cosmetic items. I could easily pass through. Finally, I was taken to the royal court. His Highness, variegated Raja was sitting at the highest position. He was observing me from top to bottom. Court was full. All the ministers, chiefs and officers had occupied their designated places. Red Admiral, the Chief of Defense Department, was present with all his medals and decorations. Chief was entitled for expensive white marble table. Next to him was Green Commodore, the second in command. Commodore's ranks on the shoulder were the proof of his service. Common Sergeant was a special escort for me. Later on I understood from Sergeant that this kingdom had such a harmonious relations with their neighbors that defense forces were never used. Finally the knight from the king's court stood up and in his deep voice started reading the king's orders. We feel happy to welcome you. As per our tradition, We are pleased to grant you a green card from our kingdom. As your first mission, we appoint you as our messenger to the human world. We expect you to take our message of saving the earth back to your people. We are insects. We can survive disasters, but we are more worried about mankind. Save us to save you all. Suddenly the most respected goddess Fawn appeared from the sky and blessed all.
If you all join this mission and stop pollution, I promise you to convert this land into a paradise. And then you need not remain green card holders, but you will become the citizens of this paradise.
I simply became speechless. This real green card was most valuable thing achieved in my life. But this means I had to go back. Going away from my beloved land was painful. Was it not a paradox? The land which taught me to be away from this trap of Moha and Maya itself had become a trap for me. I remembered Sant Kabir's lines. Kabir says, Prema gali ati sakari, tame don samay. This narrow lane of divine love and worship cannot accommodate two. Only one of those two can exist at a time. If my love was true, I was not different from my beloved land. Yes, the paradox was resolved. There was no question of separation. How can I separate from self? After a last glance, I turned back and started my return journey with burden of responsibilities. By now I had reached the boundary of this kingdom. My mind was full of satisfaction and achievement. I was surprised to see a smile on my face rather than the tears in my eyes. On the bank of Brahmaputra, I wished a long life and happiness for the kingdom. I wished that all the forests be saved from voracity of mankind. I wished that let the complete earth be a part of this kingdom. Flowing Brahmaputra simply kept on saying Tathastu.
यशस्करं बलवन्तं प्रभुत्वन्तमेव राजाधिपतिर्बभूव सङ्कीर्णनागाश्वपतिर्नराणां सुमङ्गल्यं सततं दीर्घमायु